Well, it's a beautiful day here at Thorpe Creek. Uh, it's not a warm day. It's sunny, but it's only about 45 degrees. And I've got a fire going over in the fire pit here. And the most important thing is happening this morning is I'm making my coffee, and I'm running out of fuel. And I'm lighting my cigar, and I'm running out of fuel. I don't know, I think that's a commentary on the world today. I think we're all running out of fuel. But we're gonna see if we can get some coffee going. It's just about boiling here in the percolator. Still trying out my free rein Texas Pecan. And as soon as that gets to boiling, which it's almost there, we got a little steam coming off. We'll throw the basket in, and before we finish up here, we'll have a good cup of coffee. But this morning, I'm gonna start out with a few shout outs. Once again, Ember Cigar Lounge is where I get all my cigars. I'm finishing off. This is my last Churchill Petite Panatella. This is a late hour, and I usually smoke the Churchill size of the late hour, but these are they're a great short little smoke. And they're good when you just want to have maybe 15 or 20 minutes by the fire and enjoy a good cigar. Yeah, I highly recommend them. I also want to mention I just went to the grand opening for White River Firearms. Go down there and visit those guys. They got a great spot on 165, right across the street from the state park. You can't miss it. Huge sign right on the road there. And one of the things I decided to do while I was there was I picked up a Glock 17 that I'm gonna talk about here in just a minute. A lot of people these days, they kind of put Glocks down. That they say that they're kind of outside the polymer revolution now, and I disagree. But the first thing I'm going to do before I chat about Glocks is I am an enormous fan of spy novels. I read spy novels pretty much exclusively. I haven't got through all of them yet, but I'm sure going to try. And I like Frederick Forsyth an awful lot. When I was growing up, my dad had every Frederick Forsyth novel, and I read all of them. And The Day of the Jackal is one of my favorites. That led on to John le Carré and especially his novels about George Smiley. But in spy novels, there's always a hero, and he's always supported by a cast of characters that seem to know the answers to every question. And while there's nothing wrong with that, that's not always the way it goes. And so what I like about John le Carré is that not everything goes the hero's way. There's always problems. And this book, The Looking Glass War, is actually an entire novel where everything goes wrong. The spy is not the hero. The organization supporting him is inept. And I find that interesting. I find it comforting in some way. And I'm going to read a little passage from this that I think, for me, this is what sums up the entire book. I highly recommend reading it. His books are very easy to read, very quick to read. So let's start with this. He went back to his room. There were times when he confronted his own image as a man confronts an empty valley, and the vision propelled him forward again to experience, as despair compels us to extinction. Sometimes he was like a man in flight, but running towards the enemy, desperate to fill upon his vanishing body the blows that would prove his being, desperate to imprint upon his sad conformity the mark of real purpose, desperate, perhaps, to abdicate his conscience in order to discover God. You know, the end of the book ends with one of the main characters who is being put out after having been away from, from the spy network, if you will, for a very long time. He was out in the cold, and he was the last resort. And a very small, minute detail destroyed his entire mission, and he was abandoned. He was abandoned by his controllers. And sometimes I think that's how we feel, but in all honesty, we sometimes have to realize that in our distress, there is always somebody there to help us if we'll just ask. Although in this novel, it's one of those novels where whatever help you might have received does not come in the form that you had hoped to receive it. Again, I find that comforting that, we're all going to have failures, and it's how we work out the other side of those failures that really makes a difference. So I'm going to continue to nurse my coffee here. The wind is giving it fits on my little stove, but it's going to give it the old college try, and I have a feeling we'll get some good coffee out of it yet. It's almost boiling. It's just about there, and that's really all you really need for a percolator. I usually do just straight up Folgers in a percolator. I've never done anything else. No reason other than that's just how it is. So we have to make sure the fuel stays on. We've got what we need to get the water boiling. I'm going to talk a little bit about Glock 17s here. I'm actually a big Glock fan, and I was at the grand opening and decided it'd be a good idea maybe to do a little bit of Glock work. I haven't built a Glock in a while. I'm at the top of my list is always the 1911 platform, and most of what I shoot in any realm, any form of shooting, is 1911s. But when it comes to a polymer, I like a Glock. And what I decided I'm going to do is I'm going to build this Glock out, and I'm going to turn it into what Glocks could be coming from the factory. I'm going to do a lot of things to it. I'm going to change a lot of parts out. We'll modify a lot of parts. But the first thing I'm going to do is relight this fire. The wind just isn't doing me any favors today. And it's not even a hard wind, but this stove isn't built for very much wind. And so as it comes in, it puts the fire out. But we've got time, don't we? We've got time. Every time we get almost there, fire goes out. I'm not sure how I'm connecting that with a contemplation on life, but I feel like I am. My hands are getting cold. I should have worn gloves. I've got to smoke with one and switch one out. So the first thing I'm going to do with this Glock is, I'm sure you've noticed, does not have an optic cut. But I have a real specific way I like optics to be cut, so I'm going to put an optic on it. But I'm going to send it off and I'm going to have it cut the way I like it cut for the optic I like to use. I don't mind Glock's MOS system, but it just doesn't always fit what I like from an optics perspective. So I'm going to send it off, and here in a couple of weeks we'll do a little update on it. Once I get an optic installed on it, I'll kind of show you what I like and why I like it. But for now, we've got a good head of steam on this, so I'm going to drop the percolator in, and I'm going to let that get to work while we have another conversation. You know, I get asked every once in a while why I wear a cowboy hat. The insinuation, of course, is that I'm not a cowboy. And so you kind of go further on from there, that the question is, why are you wearing a cowboy hat if you're not a cowboy? And of course, you have no right to wear a hat because you're not a cowboy. Inevitably, when I'm asked this question, I'm asked this question by a guy in a baseball cap. And I typically smile and politely ask that guy why he's wearing a baseball cap. Of course, insinuating that he can't be playing baseball in his board shorts and his Crocs. And the end of the conversation usually comes with the revelation that I wear a cowboy hat because I like cowboy hats. You know, the question also insinuates that all cowboys have to wear a cowboy hat and that all cowboys are boys. I don't think either of those assumptions made by the individual that asked that question are correct. And of course, we know what assuming makes you. A cowboy hat is a very functional piece of clothing. It's intended to serve a purpose. It keeps the sun off my head, it keeps the rain off my face, and on the range, there's no better way to keep the brass off my upper extremities. But more than that, sometimes I dream of wide open spaces and dusty back roads. I dream of my grandparents' farm. The closest of the fences that belies the distances between the fields and the barns. I wear a cowboy hat because those memories make me happy. It doesn't define me. My attitude, my spirit, my commitment, my hustle, those are things that define me. I hope you have a hat or a token of some kind that links you to the memories that make you happy. And if that hat's a cowboy hat, I hope you wear it proudly. Well, I think we may have been defeated by the wind, unfortunately. But I'll get this thing percolating, and I'll have a cup of coffee, and I'll be sure to let you know if it was good or not. Because that's really all we want to know about our coffee, isn't it? Is it good or not? Well, thank you for joining me on Coffee at the Creek today. I would encourage you to hit all the like and subscribe buttons on all the social medias. You can find us at Thorpe Creek on all of the social platforms that you might partake of. If you'd like a membership, I encourage you to check out the website, which I'll put somewhere on the screen. But it is easy to remember, thorpecreek.com. We have tours available whenever you're available. Just bring us up, we'll set it up.